Man, I have videos I even forgot to even give it a name to, and they just been sitting on my phone and another iPad that I have. And I don't know, I just have not felt the desire to post anything. I really haven't. Um, just looking at the world and what's going on right now, economically speaking, World War III, freaking all the cultural war shit, the gender war shit, just fucking wears on you after a while, and you just got to get away from it. But anyway, um, Tariq Nasheed's video addressing the, I'm white and I said so, historical revisionist white supremacist. Man, I swear I don't know what is up with these white folks. Like, and especially, like, it's like mind blowing, right? Like me being as old as I am, right? Like growing up, the white supremacist was like the old white man. He had a red pickup truck. He was from the South. You know what I mean? But he was old. Like he grew up in that time, during like Jim Crow and whatnot. He was the one that was, screaming at the top of his lungs, we don't want to go to school with blacks, like I figured like that shit would die, right? When those guys died or they were too old. But now it's like even when you look at the Buffalo shooter or when you look at the shooter of Jacksonville, right? These guys are like in their fucking 20s, right? They're in their early 20s, which means that they were born, you know, at either after 9/11, which is crazy. They were born after 9/11 or like just before, you know, Y2K, right? And I'm like, where do you get all this fucking hate? Like, where do you get all these ideas of white supremacy, right? And I guess, some of it I can understand to a degree, right? Because you got to remember, right? If you were a white person, if you were a white guy and you grew up in like the early 2000s, right? You saw, a black president, right? Even though he's biracial, you saw Barack Obama up there. So when people are running around screaming about racism and reparations, like I could imagine a young white guy like he doesn't get it. Right, like he just doesn't get it. He's like, racism is over. What are you talking about? We had 8 years of a black president, right? Doesn't get it, right? I could kind of get that, right? But like I think that there's other things that have kind of gone on in the background, with again the way that black men are promoted, in terms of hypermasculinity in sports and entertainment and rappers and then you got all these other like racist stereotypes that have persisted and float in the background, right? And then so you have like this reinforcement of the birth of a nation, the black man is the sexual threat, right? And social media only exacerbates that, right? So some of that might be, some of what we're seeing, because they're all worried about the great replacement and all this, and interracial dating and all that, right? And so, the media, like social media, has a weird way of making perception reality, even though that's not the reality, right? It makes the perception of certain threats a reality in folks' minds. But I'm just saying, I was listening to Tariq Nasheed's commentary, as you all saw by the video that was inspired by Tariq's commentary. I'm white and I say so. Historian. And I was loving the exchange. I thought the exchange was very entertaining. There were a couple things that I wish Tariq, like, I mean, like, you gotta like have that stuff like ready to go. And I don't want to criticize Tariq too much because I think he did a fairly decent job. I think he does a fairly decent job addressing some of these white supremacists when they call in his show. I like the fact that he, not only has the exchange, but it like lets them, say what they want to say to expose how these people are thinking. For all the black people in the back that run around, the conservatives we have running around. Oh, there's no racism. Racism is over. I just think that you're just throwing the race card. And I'm like, this is how these motherfuckers think. And they'll be, your middle managers, they'll be the people doing the hiring, right? Like these people are permeated all over the place. Like when you see Patriot Front and they got their face covered, right? Those could be like regular white people. You're in a supermarket, you're walking around, you're getting your gas at the gas station, you know what I mean? You're buying lottery tickets, you're just going about your regular fucking day, and you could be walking past and working with a whole bunch of these like Patriot Front, type of white guys that got like Richard Spencer's all, shit in their head. Okay. And you won't know it, right? Because they're walking around with their face covered, right? Walking around, running into neo-Nazis and people that think all this shit. Because it's like all this stuff, the 4chan, the white supremacist stuff, the white people, we're the supreme beings, and black people, they never did anything, right? And again, it goes all into this whole thing about Egypt. I don't care what the freaking Arab invaders gotta say, because, we recognize, like, Arabs see themselves as white, and they're just the other arm, the Muslim arm of white supremacy. And then you have, the white, Europeans that, they cannot maintain the concept and the idea of white supremacy, with there being a black civilization that, white people got all their knowledge and technology and information from. You know what I mean? Like a Pythagorean theorem used to always get me. And like, oh, Pythagoras, he came up with Pythagorean theorem. I'm like, how did he come up with a Pythagorean theorem about triangles when the damn pyramids that are triangles were there before he friggin' came up with Pythagorean theorem? Whether you want to call it Pythagorean theorem or not, or give him the name of it, the fact of the matter is that the Egyptians came up with, that sort of, what do you call that? Algebra and what do you call that? I guess it would be calculus, algebra, and what is that type of math called? Trigonometry. There you go. I'm losing my train of thought. Right? They came up with that. Right? And you can see this even on like I think the language is called Demonic, which is like the it's either demonic or demonic. I don't know how to say it, but anyway, it's the short form script which came later. Short form script of hieroglyphs, right? And so this is like whatever this battle, where white folks, and there's some white folks that acknowledge it. Tariq talked about that. There's a couple. I mean, there's a number of videos on YouTube where you have these white Egyptologists, that are, they're more the contemporary white Egyptologists that are like, yo, we can't even get in there. Zahi Hawass won't let us do this, won't let us do that. Clearly it's black civilization. They're in denial mode. Zahi Hawass, as I've said before, he's literally Dr. Zaius. You know what I mean? Pulls the string, here's the talking doll, and then basically, oh, I didn't see it. And it's like, motherfucker, you know what the deal is, but the ancient Egypt, and it's a multi-billion-dollar tourism industry. Hell yeah, they want to run up there and they want to claim all that and act like they know what they're talking about. Of course they do, right? But getting back to Tariq and his exchange with this white supremacist, one of the things that I wish he would address it, and black people, you gotta be spot on with being able to address some of the major talking points that you'll hear are coming from white supremacists. It's just like when I bring up, when I talk about reparations for slavery, right? It's slavery and Jim Crow. I can throw slavery out. And like you hear me rattle off all the time in numerous videos, right? When they say, oh, the black people need reparations for. I'm like, okay, let's start with redlining, blockbusting, Jim Crow, eminent domain, urban renewal, convict leasing, debt peonage, COINTELPRO, denial of FHA loans, racial housing covenants, Richard Aoki, freaking the assassination of black leaders, the purging of black community, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Ocoee, Florida, Springfield, Illinois, Omaha, Nebraska, Slocum, Texas, Elaine, Arkansas, Wilmington, North Carolina, what's the other one? Corbin, Kentucky, where they ran the black people out of there. Right? I mean, the list just goes on and on. These things that can be pointed out. 1994 crime bill, CIA, Iran Contras dumping drugs in the black community. Right? I just rattle it off. And usually white people, they can't handle that shit. They're like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Because, again, let them tell it. Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. It's been equal ever since, and we don't know what black people are complaining about. Okay? like that's how they want to explain the shit, so you gotta be spot on. And so one of the most tired white supremacist Egypt talking points is the sub-Saharan Africa. And whenever that comes up, I do not know why people don't bring up the wet Sahara. I don't know why they don't bring it up. And Tariq didn't bring it up. I mean, it's easy to dispel that. The end of the Younger Dryas period, you got the humid period. I think it was 12,000 years ago. The Sahara was wet, and then it started, drying up, about 5,000 years ago. Right? And then the animals, right? You got all the carvings. I've talked about that before. You got all the animals, the giraffes, the hippopotamus, the crocodiles. Again, all of these things, all these animals that are depicted in hieroglyphs, right? And now, right, all of those animals are where? In sub-Saharan Africa, right? Because in African people who are, if they're going to come up with a pictographic language, that pictographic language is going to depict animals and fauna that they're familiar with. Right. So the funny thing about the sub-Saharan African argument is when you look at the hieroglyphs and you look at the fact that the hieroglyphs are based off of African indigenous fauna and animals, right? Flora and fauna, as it would be said, right? You clearly see that it's an African language. Aside from all the images that I've been posting, for a while now. Again, the Arabs and the white folk, they want to show you those same either 5 white images of statues or the ones that have been severely, as one brother, posted, which I didn't know. I mean, the way that they scrub these damn statues down and literally scrub the color off, and they show you, they call it a cleansing, and they got some, they take pictures before and after, and you can literally see how they literally try to scrub the brown paint off of the statues that are clearly depicting, a East African, Cushitic, Nilotic, black person. They want to remove that. And that brings up another point. And this is to the East Africans. What are y'all doing, man? Seriously speaking, not even just the East Africans. I'll throw in the West Africans on this shit. Why are African Americans fighting this fight? This is the whole problem with Africans as a continent. You guys do not understand white supremacy. And this dives right into why, and this is the whole premise of me making this video, why black people, we got to put our name on shit. Because as you can see, white people in all of their insecurity, I mean, they got to run around and they will run around and claim everything and claim that, I swear they'll be telling, they'll be saying, white people invented jazz, white people invented rock and roll, white people invented hip hop, it'll be some textbook in 100 years from now. The textbook will say, and hip hop began with Eminem. I swear, this is what they'll be doing. And so when you see the whole, situation with Egypt and the denial, the complete denial, not saying anybody else wasn't there and didn't come later, but it's a civilization that's rooted in black Africans. Again, the Egyptians themselves, said that they came from Upper Egypt, right? Because which goes down into Africa, which goes, what do they call it? The mountain of the moon, which is in Uganda. Going to the origins of the Nile, and then you have, I think it's the blue and the white Nile, and one of them goes, I think it's Blue Nile's in Ethiopia, if I'm not mistaken. But you got the blue and the white Nile, right? And the Egyptians, they talk about Ta Seti and their connection, to Nubia. And again, these whites and these Arabs, they just want to completely ignore it because they want to maintain white and Arab supremacy. And you have to understand that. So they just trying to erase, black people, from Egypt, even though the deeper they dig, right, the blacker it gets. Right. And it's no coincidence why all these statues always seem to have the nose, the most prominent feature on a black person's face, busted off. But again, as I've shown many of the pictures, even if you bust the nose off, first off, where it's busted, right? You can still see that the person has a wide nose. You can still see the high cheekbones. You can still see the shape of the lips. You can still see the almond-shaped eyes, right? And even with that, like, yeah, like Africa is diverse. You have people that have flat noses. You have people that have straight noses. You have people that have curly hair. Again, as I've showed in many of the pictures, with you have the Beja people and the Oromo people, and I mean going all the way into the Afar people. I mean, there's all these different people that live there and have all different type of phenotypes, Cushitic, Nilotic, all that stuff, right? And yet, the white supremacist and the Arab supremacist, they want to come with these sort of American black-white definitions of what is black, which is arguments that I have had with the East Africans for several years, especially the African Horners, when it comes to, these concepts of blackness, or what is black, or what defines black. And then they get into, even like they buy into the white supremacy where they're like, oh, and my hair is like this, so I'm not black. And they want to still be in the black community, but they want to be elevated above other black people because they have some of the phenotypes that you see with whites and Europeans, and especially when it comes to the women, the Europeans, give them favor, and like, oh, yes, you're a beautiful, beautiful black woman, and they'll put them over West African women. There's all this bullshit and fighting when it comes to that. But anyway, getting back to what I was saying about the West Africans and East Africans, it's like, why is it that the African Americans are the ones that are making all the videos, putting out all the content, challenging these narratives, doing the research, doing the legwork, right? And you all, again, I'm using your images. The Egyptians on the hieroglyphs, okay? Many of them look like you, like literally look like you. The cultural continuity is there. It's 100% there, from the style of clothes to the fucking jewelry to the way you style your hair, to the collars, that people are wearing. I mean, everything. It's right there. These places are like so isolated and haven't been developed, even since, the Industrial Revolution, that it, like, literally very little has changed. And yet these East Africans, it's like they don't say nothing. We don't see. I don't know. Maybe it's because they don't speak English. Maybe it's, I don't know. Maybe y'all don't have the internet. I don't know what it is. But there's enough East Africans in Canada and in the United States, and y'all got some bitch nigga tendencies. I'm gonna keep it a buck. Y'all got some real bitch nigga tendencies where y'all don't speak up. You know what I mean? And here you got, us, African Americans, we're speaking up on this shit, but y'all don't say shit. Okay, and this is the whole problem, with the continent of Africa and black unity and Pan-Africanism and whatnot. And people want to get into all these fucking fights about the shit. And at the end of the day, We only got each other. And I don't know why you get in these people that think that somehow, oh, we're not going to do the Pan-African thing. I'm like, you don't have a fucking choice. You don't have a fucking choice. Because all these other groups want to come into Africa because Africa's got all the resources. Chop it up, dice it up. You know what I mean? You got fucking the dude, the CEO of Blackwater talking about we need to go back in there and recolonize Africa. You know what I mean? Y'all niggas need to wake up. But anyway, so I'm 20 minutes into this video. And the reason I wanted to make this video was not just, talking about what I just talked about. That's just kind of like the preliminary introduction. But I wanted to pull up the, West African architecture. And, there's a lot of images that I found. Some of them, they're not even labeled. So I'm hoping that all of these images, all of these images are, what I'm looking at for the ones that weren't labeled. Most of them were labeled, but some of them, like I almost slipped up because there were images that were from actually Papua New Guinea of all places, right? But this goes back to what, not Umar Johnson, friggin' Tariq Nasheed was talking about when he was talking about the people from Fiji. I actually posted that video of, the people of Fiji who, it's like they were having an interview and the guy point blank said, he was like, we came from Africa. He's like, we came from Africa. And, that's the whole out of Africa. It's not a theory. It's what happened. You know what I mean? You go from East Africa to Yemen, there's black populations in Pakistan, Indus Valley, the Dravidians, they want to say, are the ones that started the Indus Valley, and then they were displaced by the Aryans, who basically came from Russia and Afghanistan, who came down into, India and pushed the Dravidians south. The Indians, they're having a debate right now. I mean, I posted a video of a Dravidian professor, and he also says and acknowledges we came from Africa. And you can see it when you look at the Dravidian population. That would be the people that are Tamil and what's the other languages, Tuvalu and some other language. I forget. There's one starts with a K, I think. You can see how many of these people are extremely black. You don't go from being white people or white skinned people to being dark skinned. You go from being dark skinned to being lighter skinned, over time. But anyway, you go from there, you go down into the Philippines, and Southeast Asia, the Negritos, you go into the Melanesian areas and whatnot. And again, the even on the eastern side of India with the Jarawa and the indigenous people on Sentinel Island that went, literally, you go on Google, it says, that they've been there for 55,000 years. 55,000 years. People have no idea how freaking long ago that was. I mean, hell, 10,000 years ago, there were woolly mammoths walking around. 55,000 years ago, blue eyes only came into existence 6,000 to 10,000 years ago. Again, like I said, white people came from us. They didn't even exist before. This is the whole issue that I have with even black people. And yeah, I'm going there with the whole Abrahamic religions. Black people have been on this planet for at least 300,000 to 150,000 years. Okay? And you mean to tell me that we black people had no relationship to God or didn't have the right orientation or relationship to God until, just before, maybe 1,000 years before, freaking Christianity, right? Then followed by Islam in, what would that be, 732 AD, right? And only until the Abrahamic religions, came into existence, right? When you got this Arab-looking dude named Abraham in the city of Ur, which is Mesopotamia, right? Mind you, that when you go and you look at the origins of the what do you call that? The Latin alphabet, A B C D E and all that stuff, right? Cuneiform doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't go anywhere. But yet again, I posted the tree of the A B C D E and how it came from hieroglyphs, starting with hieroglyphs and evolved into other shit. Hell, even the demonic or whatever the script is that the Egyptians have is written. What's funny is if you look at it slightly, it looks like Arabic, but it's not Arabic, but it's written, or excuse me, read in the same direction as Arabic, which is from right to left, right? Because all the other languages, pretty much we read from left to right. English is read left to right. French is read left to right, right? All these other languages left to right. And you write it left to right. But Arabic and Demonic, which is the ancient Egyptian script, is read from right to left, right? Even though, they don't have, any other real, correlation, right? But again, I'll post the tree, in this video, somewhere. Where is this? 25 minutes. I'll remember to post it at 25 minutes to know like where that location is. What else? Oh yeah, I was going with the Melanesians and all the way down to the Aboriginal people, right? Even the Hawaiians. You got that whole thing with the Hawaiians, and basically when the British came, they were talking about how they were going to go and send somebody back to Africa for reinforcements, right? I don't know whether that's a myth or what, I've heard that story numerous times. But again, melanin is melanin is melanin. Like human beings don't have Mullerian mimicry. We're not like bees and carpenter bees, where it's like, oh, I was just over here mimicking dark skin. Like, no, that shit has origins to it. We are the oldest fucking people on the goddamn planet. And so the whole idea that God didn't decide to speak to humanity until all the whites and the Arabs showed up is bullshit. But yet black people running around and they want to take their spiritual and religious and moral orientation from people who have shown us nothing but violence and disdain. It makes no fucking sense. How are the people who got here last going to tell you about God? You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it's like, it reminds me of that the peppermint patty and that the freaking, what was that called? The Great Race or something like that. A peppermint patty where they were in the cabin and like Charlie Brown was in the cabin with the other boys, and then here comes Peppermint Patty. We found you, Chuck. We found you. Like, bitch, I've been here. What the fuck are you talking about? We found you, Chuck. We found you. Like, no, get the fuck out of here. The arrogance. We've been here, and then somebody else is going to come up and run up on you talking about, let me tell you about God. Let me teach you about religion. Let me teach you about the Lord. Bitch, I've been here. Fuck out of here. Yeah, just irritating the hell. And again, this is what they don't want to face. You see, they don't want to face that fact. But so what I did was I went online because I'm tired of the disrespect. I'm tired of all the Africa and the mud huts and the sub-Saharan Africa, because I don't know about the Younger Dryas period. So, there's this invisible wall where the black people who are most made to deal with the sun, suddenly they come across the dunes in the center in the desert, and they're like, no, I'm melting. Meanwhile, a bunch of Arabs that, gotta wear clothes in order to be in the damn sunlight, even though the Egyptians are walking around with no goddamn shirt on, they're the original Egyptians, but you sub-Saharan Africans with your dark skin, no, you there was a line, it's called the Sahara Desert, and y'all didn't cross that, even though in reality y'all been crossing it for centuries with the salt trade, but we're not going to talk about that. Oh God, it just hurts my brain listening to these guys. try to justify, their like racial superiority and try to, put black people in this non-history having box. Right. So anyway, I keep getting away from what I wanted to talk about, which is West African architecture. You know what I mean? Because we've been talking about Egypt. Yeah, I think when the Arab invaders came in, and probably before that, when the animals left, if we're, hunter gatherer people, right? If we're, hunting these animals and herding these animals, and the lands that they graze dry the fuck up, I gotta go where the animals go. I gotta go further south. I mean, even to this day, Lake Chad has like is like a freaking a what do you want to call it? It's not even close to what it formerly was. I'm not talking about mega Lake Chad. I'm talking about just Lake Chad in general. The shorelines just keep, receding and whatnot, and they're having problems in Chad, as a result of it. So just to show you how much, the climate has changed, but these, again, black Africans left the area and went where it made sense to go, which is further south where there's the tropics. There's some nomadic people that stayed around. You can see them, in many of the people that are still living in the Sahara. And what you see again is that cultural continuity with their clothes, the style of dress and whatnot. And those that, did not want to, bother with the Arabs who came in the 7th century. I mean, point blank, period. Climate change. I mean, just like New York. New York is like sinking. Miami is sinking. Okay, 200-300 years from now, those places are going to be underwater and they're just going to be abandoned, and people are going to leave and they're going to go. They're going to go elsewhere. And again, even with the Nubians, that are right there in Aswan, I mean, what did the Egyptian authorities do? What did they do to their lands? They flooded it. They dammed it up and they flooded the region. I forget what the dam. They took those big like pharaoh statues. They took the whole thing and relocated it. Tried to act like they were trying to save everything, but that they didn't save everything. A lot of that history is literally underwater right now. And if you ask me, they did that shit on purpose because they want to erase black Africans from Egypt. But that's a whole nother conversation. But anyway, again, I keep getting away from what I want to talk about. West African architecture. So I put all these images together of West African. Where I'm at, 32 minutes. So I guess I'll start with the images, at this point. So if you haven't been looking at the video and you're just listening to it, you should probably start looking at the video because I'm going to put a whole bunch of images, in here of West African architecture. Now, the sad part is, a lot of this stuff is gone. It was burnt down. It was destroyed, during, slavery and colonization. And so we don't know exactly what it looked like. Some of these structures, I don't even know when like any of these images were taken. I think they were taken in like the late, 1800s. Some of these images were taken after that. So there's some structures that are there, but like there was a image I found, and I remember, Home Team History, he touched on this, that West Africa had a lot of, mega cities, and the only way that it was depicted, because it was before the time of the camera, when the Europeans came there, all they could do was draw pictures of it, like literally just draw, have an artist draw what they're seeing, from the top of a ridge or something like that. And they're like, major cities. And, again, challenging the narrative of, it's like the idea of West Africans is like, it's like just think of like three, my favorite is the mud huts, 3 mud huts surrounding a campfire. And that's how black people live, like on some Native American teepee type of shit. Like, and that's literally how they want to frame, black Africans living in West Africa. And I mean, you had, the Ghanaian Empire, the Songhai, Empire. There was another empire that was like actually a little bit further north, and they left. And there was another group that was before that. I forget the name of it. It starts with an S. I have one of the images in here. It's like a fortress city in the middle of the Sahara. And I think the reason why people left is because the water became too brackish. It became too the salinity was too high, and obviously the animals couldn't drink it, and therefore they had to go somewhere else. Again, you got to go where the livestock goes. Cattle's, camels, chickens, all that stuff. If they can't survive in that area, you got to roll out. But one of the things, and I'm gonna put the images at the very beginning. So like I probably already passed them already, but like the disrespect, right? Because one of the things that I get from like white people all the time when they talk about Africa and West Africans, and they never built anything or never built any structures and all that. And again, this is why I'm saying you got to put your name on everything, as a black person. Like I want black people to build and create retarded, mega structures, because again, we see the pathology of white people. They'll just jump up, I mean, regardless of how in tune with nature you're living, regardless of you only take from the land that which you need, what I mean? White people, like, nah, you gotta go and do something wild, crazy, and extravagant. Otherwise, they're gonna act like, you're not even capable of doing it. Right? And so, like, I go online and I'm like, okay, well, how are Europeans living in Europe, in I don't know, the fucking Middle Ages? Give me a Viking house. I pull up a fucking Viking house. The shit's like, I mean, it looks like where the hobbits live in Lord of the Rings. This fucking grass roof, and it's like built like into the ground, like covered with like earth and dirt and shit like that. And they got these little like little stone, like these cobblestone houses, or just, again, you see them in the images. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sitting there, I'm looking at the images like, but how is this any better than what how the West Africans were living? How is this any better than that? You know what I mean? Like, what, a brick is a brick, goddammit. Like, whether it's a mud brick or whether it's I don't know what you want to call them, the white people, stone bricks that aren't even really stone. Like, I'm like, aren't they both mud bricks? You know what I'm saying? Like, a brick is a brick, right? But somehow white people's bricks are better, right? So when they build a structure, ooh, it's better. And then you get into like this fairy tale of the freaking castles and shit that white people built. I'm like, white people had to build castles because white people had to defend themselves from white people's very own savagery and shit. The only reason why castles, they don't do the castle thing anymore is because somewhere like in the 15th, century, they came up with the fucking cannons that they got from the gunpowder from the Chinese, and they got the cannons from the Arabs, and then they used the freaking cannons to besiege, the fucking walls of the castle, right? Because I mean, they think they had like the trebuchet before, which is like that big swinging catapult thing. But once they had the cannons, I mean, the walls are not going to do anything. All they got to do is just shoot the walls until the walls come down and then march through that bitch. Right? Either that or just surround the city and besiege the shit like the freaking Mongols did, when they sieged, Baghdad. And what was that, like 1528? What was when they besieged Baghdad? I might have my years messed up. You know what I mean? Just sit outside the walls and wait until you get thirsty and shit. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of pointless. But again, that speaks to, their savagery and whatnot. Right? And the other thing is like there's all this criticism about, it's West Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, right? And, like, how come they didn't build megalithic structures? Where would you build the megalithic structures? Where would you get the materials to build the megalithic structures? It's not, the quarryable areas, of Egypt, where they got these big, quarries, of limestone and granite that they can just, pluck out of the ground and go off and decide to build something. Right? I mean, this is the whole thing. Like, even when people are like, oh, they're like, oh, they don't use wheels, they don't use the chariot, right? Because you have people running around talking about, oh, Africans, I didn't invent the wheel, even though you have Egyptian chariots. The wheel, as Europeans found out when they tried to move from South Africa, the Boers and the Afrikaners, when they tried to move north into the interior of Africa, just think African dirt and soil and a nice strong tropical rain. And think about a wagon wheel in African soil and a nice strong tropical rain. What the fuck is a wagon wheel going to do you in freaking mud that's like literally up to your damn fucking knees? What is that going to do? You know what I'm saying? So like you get these white people babbling, racist nonsense, and they're not even thinking about, what the terrain is, what the climate is, right? But I'm just saying, going back to the structures, I'm looking at the European structures, and I'm looking at the African structures, right? I didn't even know like these are. I'm like, those are mud huts. I'm like, that's a pretty damn big ass mud hut if you ask me. Looking at some of these structures in Togo and Benin and Ghana, looking at these royal palaces that they have. I don't see the problem with it. I don't see what's so offensive, about them. Mind you, like even when white people sit around and they talk about, the awesomeness of white people and what they've achieved globally, they only achieved it at the expense of everybody else. Europe doesn't have any raw materials and minerals and none of that shit. Europe don't have that shit. I mean, Russia does. But the rest of Europe really doesn't have any of that shit. And again, freaking a lot of Europeans' innovation came out from their warlike behavior of killing the fuck out of each other. All the European wars, I mean, it was nothing but white on white violence. It was nothing but who the fuck are the Hessians? You know what I'm saying? Like hired guns. All type of war. I mean, Europe is just filled with war. So it just makes it easy, you leave Europe and, you've been, honing your teeth in Europe. It makes it easy to leave and then go and, you got guns and gunpowder and shit and go somewhere else in the world and start fucking with some other people. That makes that shit easy, but, it just, going out there, taking over the rest of the world, vacuuming money and resources and wealth, back to Europe, freeing up their time, to where, again, now they're rich. Now they have time for leisure. They have time for study. They're not living such an agrarian lifestyle, right? Then you can have, these sorts of, periods of growth and innovation. You can do that, yeah, when you got other people doing all the work, right? When you're just sitting there, collecting all the resources, and then somehow, for some reason, we can't say that white people are fucked up for that. For some reason, that doesn't speak to their pathological nature. Like, like the part that gets me, like with white people, right? It's like, I got an inner city black kid, and the inner city black kid goes off and knocks over a liquor store or robs somebody, right? And we know the whole history of racism in this country, right? And it's like, yeah, he shouldn't do that, but he's been put in a particular socioeconomic situation where that's what the fuck happens, right? That's what happens. But when it comes to like white people, right, you'll get like the Buffalo shooter. Middle class white guy in college, supportive family, 2 parents in the home, and you gonna do some shit like, I'm gonna go and shoot up a black supermarket. You know what I mean? Like you tell me which person is more evil. The person that is a member of a marginalized group and they go out there and they do some fuck shit, or the person that literally the society was made for them, right? Everything is handed to them on a silver fucking platter. Their networks are there. Their parents having resources are there. I mean, they just got it all, and they go off and they do some crazy wild fuck shit. Like who's the fucked up one in that scenario. It just like the way that white people try to project and pathologize other people is fucking insane. It's insane. I don't know what's wrong with these people. I have no clue what is wrong with them. When it comes to everything, they just want to attack everything. Their insecurity is fucking mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. It's like they're just like running the room. I'm the best. I'm the best. I'm the best. It's like, damn, like we're all here on planet Earth. Like, calm down, Chad. We're all here on planet Earth. We're all here living, trying to get by. And no, I must have it all. No, I must have it all. And then they'll try to justify it with like survival of the fittest and shit like that. And I'm like, weren't you the one that was running around throwing around white Jesus all over the place? Weren't you the one talking about being Christian and morality and morals and all this other shit? But then you turn right around and no, we're racially superior. The bell curve. Like, huh? You know what I mean? And then they gotta run around and they're scrambling, trying to rewrite history. No, we're the best. Oh no, y'all are just nothing. Y'all ain't create nothing. Y'all are just nothing. No, I'm like, God damn, like who hurt your feelings, bro? Who hurt your motherfucking feelings? Seriously speaking, what is wrong with white people? I don't see people going to the lengths that white people go to, to try to shit on everybody else. You know what I mean? It's just what they do. They just go around shitting on everybody. I was watching a video. I thought the shit was hilarious. It was some Indian woman, and she was basically saying, she was like, I've learned something. And she basically said that, when you're in the workplace and if there's a white person that black people distance themselves from, that person's not to be trusted. And she was like, basically, and this is an Indian woman, saying this shit. I thought that shit was hilarious. I'm like, yeah, because we know them. We know them. Like before white people discovered all the other groups, we had already been fucking interacting with them. You know what I mean? Like we've been in this country for what, like 355 years, something like that. You know what I mean? We know them. We know how they are. And then you get all these people, Indians and fucking bitch from Bangladesh and an Iraqi dude and everything that came here. Their parents came here in the 90s and shit like that. And they're wagging their finger and they want to tell black people something about racism. And I'm like, bitch, you don't know these motherfuckers. These motherfuckers are fucked up. They're fucked up. They're fucked up. They can't help it. I'm telling you, they just can't help it. They can't help it. And it's always like some fucking weirdo. The dude's just weird. Sounds like an incel. Ain't getting no pussy. It's like, is that what you mad about? Like, is it about pussy? Like, what is it about? What is it about these guys? They just have to come to, no, you ought to, it's just nuts. And it's like, even if you want to make the arguments you want to make, what does that have to do with right now? Like that's not going to make Becky want to sit on your dick more than she's sitting on Jamal's dick. Like, what is that? Yeah, they come from mud huts and they never did anything. And I'm like, Jamal still fucking your girl. Like, what is it? Like, seriously, what the fuck is it? You know what I mean? What is it? What could it be? What could it be? Where does this shit, come from? You know what I mean? Like, black people, we don't have that. Like, when white people try to reverse racism, no. What we say is a response to your racism. We don't run around with black superiority complexes and shit like that. Even when it comes to Egypt, we wouldn't even be talking about Egypt if you weren't trying to erase black people from the fucking history. You know what I'm saying? Like, Egypt would not be at the fore. Black people wouldn't be running around, we was kangs and shit like that. And what's so crazy is when you go and you look at the fucking Renaissance pictures, which again, I hate how none of those have any explanation. They're all of the nativity or whatever, the birth of Jesus and all that other shit, right? And they always, one of the things, and I had a video a long time ago. I said blacks never knelt before Jesus, because in none of the pictures, right, you always have the white person kissing Jesus's feet on their knees, and the black person is always there. They're always holding some sort of chalice or some sort of goblet or something, right? And they're always standing, like as though, and they're always dressed, to the nines, right? And they're always, it's always, they also usually have a crown, right? And I know that the Moors went into, Europe and they went into Spain. Home team history has a different perspective on it, where he's like, no, the black people weren't really running shit. It was really the Arabs. And then the white people try, because the Arabs are basically white people or look like white people. They had to find another target to focus on, which was the blacks, that were the enforcement arm, because the black Moors, they were the ones that were doing the fighting. And this goes into, a lot of times black people go out here and they embrace, example, like these Abrahamic religions, and they basically, don't operate in their own interest, but they operate in the interest of others. So that becomes a problem. Like King Alfonso, and I think it was King Alfonso the First, right? And he became Christian. You know what I mean? Then he writing letters to Portugal, like, oh my God, and these traders are taking people from our lands. And it's like, dumbass. You know what I mean? Fucking subscribing to white Jesus, right? You know what I mean? Or you get the black, Muslims that go off and they operate in the interest of the Arabs, and the Arabs are running around calling black people Abid and shit like that. So it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Get off of these goddamn Abrahamic religions that do not serve the interest of black people. I mean, how much history do you need in order to recognize that shit? I was even going back to I had the pictures of the monarch, what's his name, Salalasi, the king of Ethiopia, and he was I had the pictures up there, and you got Queen Elizabeth, she's bowing before them, and we know that the Ethiopians, they were one of the first to embrace Christianity. I think they embraced Christianity in like the 4th century. But I'm saying, again, black people are an ancient people. Even within Islam, the Prophet Muhammad and his people, when they were trying to run away from the Quraysh, who were basically the other Arab tribes that didn't embrace Islam yet. Okay, they ran to Abyssinia, which is what? Ethiopia, for asylum. It's right there in the Quran. So it was completely different time. Black people were respected completely differently. And again, you see it in these the Renaissance images that I had in my last video. You just type in blacks in Europe and you're just going to get a ton. I didn't even scratch the surface. Okay, you're just going to get a ton of these images of, and some people were saying so many have been destroyed, just all this history that they don't teach. It's like, what is this black dude doing in a fucking, looking like he's playing Soul Calibur and shit? What is this black dude doing in a knight's armor? Like, what is that? How, Sway? They didn't teach us that in school. You know what I mean? There's like, black people, you have nothing to do with Europe. Black people, nothing. I mean, hell, they're going the hell off, with the, black people in, the freaking, where they changed one of the characters in God of War or something like that. They start going crazy, even though freaking Kratos's voice is played by a black male actor. But anyway, I'm just saying, it's like these people, like there's so many white people that have these ideas in their head of what European history is. And there's so much of it that is completely lost or completely hidden intentionally.
Again, they got all type of shit in that damn Vatican, that I think what is it? Like they don't let you go back beyond 1939 or something like that, or 1933, I forget which one it is. They won't let you go back further than that cuz they got a whole bunch of shit in there they don't want people to know or see. They probably got some scrolls and shit that they stole from, the library in Alexandria. Just a whole bunch of information vacuumed up, and taken to them. Because again, it's a power organization. Controlling information is power. Like I'm like, why are there Egyptian obelisk in Rome? Like, what is the connection there? Again, the freaking, the who's the other organization? They got the shit in Philadelphia. The damn, what's the shit called? The Freemasons. There you go. Yeah, the Freemasons. They got a whole Egyptian room. Just Google it. Type in Freemasons, Philadelphia Temple, right across from City Hall. They got a whole Egyptian room. What does the Freemasons and the Egyptians got to do with each other and connected to these white people that founded the country? Like, explain that to me, right? You see, and then you got like all the stuff, the freaking the eye that's on top of the pyramid on the dollar bill, and then you got the Eye of Horus. There's a whole bunch of shit that we don't know the full story on, plain and simple. And again, while Europeans running around, oh, black people, they ain't got no history. They sure as fuck, plagiarized a whole bunch of shit. It was so funny to me. All black people, oh, they got no history, but yet all throughout Europe, they got fucking museums, right? They want to talk about how rich and they're trying to preserve European history and everything else, but yet they got museums full of other people's shit. I'm like, why can't you fill your museums full of your own shit, right? If you're so kick ass, if you're so hellified, right? Why don't you fill your European museums with your European history? But instead, no, they go around the world, running around. Oh, this African mask, because Africans don't have no value, but this African mask, oh man, $9 million, going once, going twice. You know what I mean? And yeah, we know some of that has to do with them, with the money laundering through art and all that other bullshit. You know what I mean? But I'm like, you could do that with your own shit. You could chisel off a piece of Stonehenge and then be like, going once, going twice, $3 million for this piece of Stonehenge. But y'all don't do that shit. Y'all run around and you got other people's shit. Again, John Oliver covered a video on this topic. You know what I mean? They got the damn statue stolen from fucking Indonesia in a damn museum, and then you go to Indonesia and they got the damn feet of the statue, like where they literally hacked the bitch off. You know what I mean? I don't know if it was Indonesia or Cambodia or something like that. You know what I mean? But all this stuff from that they got, I think it was, yeah, it had to be Cambodia because I think it had to do with the Khmer Rouge, with Pol Pot and all that, and they went in there and had this one white guy. He died recently, but it was this white guy. He was a part of basically, stealing artifacts out of the country, and selling them, in Europe and shit. Again, it's sick ass pathology. You know what I mean? Like where is it? Like, this is what it kills me. Like, like white people created this whole racial hierarchy in their minds to try to put themselves at the top, and everybody else is like all these second tier human beings on planet Earth, right? And then when you psychoanalyze white people and you call them out for their savagery, their inhumanity, their psychopathy, you know what I mean? Then they want to run around and they will scream, oh, it's reverse racism. Oh, you're doing the same thing that you're accusing us of doing. No, I'm not. Your shit was baseless. You like white people's shit was just fabricated. You just like made up shit. You hid history. You lied. You all this other shit. I'm not lying about who you are. You know what I'm saying? You show us who you are every fucking day, and then you get mad when we call a red light red. You know what I'm saying? We call a blue sky blue. You get mad at us. You know what I'm saying? And again. Like I said, You guys will sit there and you'll point to things like, oh, black people, oh, they're committing crime, and then completely be ahistorical, ignoring all the policies put in place to marginalize black people, right? And I'm like, see, I don't like, my whole thing is, if you really want to see who somebody is, judge the person and what they do when they have or believe that they have absolute freedom. Because now they're showing you who they fucking are. They're not restricted. They're not forced or backed into a corner when they're doing what. No, this is what the fuck they want to do. That's who the fuck they are. And that's what I see when I see these white people and they come online foaming at the mouth with their racism, acting like they're saying something, new and profound. I don't know what type of echo chambers that they're in. You know what I mean? But they, just lack any amount of fucking critical thinking. I'm white and I said so. But just as a motherfucking historical as humanly possible. It's nuts. It is nuts. But this is what we deal with. And black people, the black diaspora all over need to come up, with, ways to, address these people in real time, because they're not that smart. They're really not that smart. One of the best responses that Tariq did, and I'm so glad he did it, because this has been an ongoing thing. The guy said he was from England, and then, oh, well, you're not Egyptian. You guys are from West Africa, so why are you over there trying to claim Egypt? Aren't you from England? But yet you want to tell us about Rome and Greece. You know what I'm saying? They didn't even consider Greeks and fucking Italians to be white, until after the damn Third Reich. They didn't even consider them white. Sacco and Vanzetti were executed. You know what I'm saying? Like they called them wops and guineas and shit like that. They created laws in New York, not against black people, but against Italian immigrants. But now all of a sudden, all of the southern white people that are closest to Africa, by the way, where they got all their knowledge, now all of a sudden, they are the pinnacle of white civilization and Greco-Roman artifacts and busts and heads and shit like that they want to, the ideal Greek, like the statue of David is like the antithesis. No, not the antithesis. The embodiment of a handsome white man. And I'm like, yeah, why don't you go and pull some shit from fucking Germany or something like that, right? It's just so funny, right? Like even now, like you got the white supremacists, they are on the we was Vikings and shit, now they all want to be Vikings because they want to get away from Christianity because Christianity is too Jewish for them. So now they're trying to retreat to like some Nordic Scandinavian Viking thing, of pure whiteness. And now now they're subscribing to Odinism and all this other shit, right? Because they want to get away from the Mediterranean. They want to get away from, the Jews and the black Africans. And they want to focus on a Nordic, ethnic, Aryan, freaking, God of War, fucking, sort of, histories, this sort of idealistic Viking situation. And you see this with like either the way that they have like erections over the movie The Norseman. They're just over there like just rubbing one out. Oh, the movie wasn't even that good. I thought it was going to be good. It wasn't even that good. You know what I mean? Like Willow is a better movie than that. You know what I mean? But they're like, oh yeah, the movie Vikings. You got all this them wanting to aspire to white male Viking masculinity, right? Because they feel that they've been consumed with modernity, and here you got black guys that are all over the TV with their hip hop and their hyper masculinity and their gangster rap, and they need to have like a counter to that shit, right? Like I said before, you only got like 3 forms of white male masculinity. Like aggressive masculinity, which is like be a Marine, be a biker, or be a Viking. Like that's it. That's it. Otherwise, you're a guy walking around that's a metrosexual in New York and you wear pastel colors, and you got a pea coat and you're like, "Oh, I make money on Wall Street." You know what I mean? But it's not very masculine. Like white guys right now are running around desperately looking for their like Fight Club like mode. Like they want to be Brad Pitt in Fight Club so fucking bad. Which is why I try to tell black people you need to be blickied up because, just in case one of these motherfuckers decide that they want to feel froggy, but that's a whole nother conversation, but I swear, like, there's something wrong with them. I don't see anybody else. They just run around and just, it's shit on black people day. Oh no, y'all didn't accomplish nothing. Y'all ain't done nothing. Y'all ain't this. Y'all ain't that. I mean, they go out of their way. They go out of their way, and they're so confident. They're so confident with what they say. You know what I mean? And it's like I've never seen a more insecure group of people. Never seen a more insecure group of people. We don't run around with that bullshit. No, we're countering what the negative bullshit that y'all put out there. You know what I mean? The inaccurate, negative bull. And I'm saying, like, again, you know what I mean? It's like, like Yoda said, if so powerful you are, why leave? You know what I'm saying? If so powerful you are, why lie? Right? If you're running around, you know what I mean, and you got, fucking, you're running around Super Saiyan and shit like that, right? You're just levitating above everybody. You don't have to flex, right? You know what I mean? If you're a big guy, you got muscles and everything, and you're benching 315 like it's nothing, like you don't gotta brag about it. Like what do you think? I run around and I'm like, hey, I can do 315 10 times. Hey, I can do 315 10 times. Hey, I can squat 400 pounds. Hey, like I don't do that shit. But y'all motherfuckers, y'all be running around. You just gotta like prove, oh, we're this, we're that, we're this. And what's so crazy is even from black people's marginalized position, we still somehow, with all of the barriers, all of the policies, all the shit, we still somehow make you all feel some type of way. Y'all be just going crazy. You know what I mean? Beyonce cannot be acknowledged for having the best country song ever out right now. Just like y'all just go crazy. It's like, damn, we not even in country like that. I'm just saying, like we not even in country like that. What's like one song? You gonna acknowledge one song? They did the same thing with Lil Nas X. You know what I'm saying? One fucking song, motherfuckers go ballistic. No, this is ours. Like, what is it? You're afraid that anything, like, first you say, oh, you're incapable of X, Y, and Z. Okay, well, then why do you create all these barriers? You know what I mean? You don't want to acknowledge. You want to keep us out of it. It's like the Tuskegee Airmen and shit. Oh, niggas can't fly. Oh, they can't even. They can't be pilots. And then black people go and they go and become pilots and end up being requested to escort bombers. Requested, right? What other area, they freaking, the same thing. They try to keep black people out of it. I remember like in the fucking 80s, black people can't be quarterbacks. That's a thinking man's game. You know what I mean? Then, black guys, quarterbacks, and then, end up being some of the best quarterbacks in the league. Like, it's like, I'm like, what is wrong with these people? I mean, like, again, if you're just so awesome, right? You don't need to, right? It's like what Dr. Hendrik Clark said. Things that are actually inferior, right? They don't need, assistance, in being kept down. They don't need barriers and blockades to be put up, right? If they're truly inferior, they just will simply fall to the bottom, right? There doesn't need to be any obstacles put up. Right? If Africans' tiny Negro brains are too small to comprehend how to read, then you don't need to deny slaves how to read. I mean, hey, they're just animals, right? You don't need to, create laws to prevent them from knowing how to read. You know what I'm saying? This is like the bullshit of it all. See, the smart white people, they knew. They knew. The ones that, they put all the psychological weaponry, in place, like they know. They're like, nah, we gotta psychologically fuck with them and make them, enslave themselves. It's like a fucking dog, with the invisible fence type of shit. And when you take the damn collar off, they're still afraid to go outside the yard because they think they're gonna get shocked. Right? Like that's where they gotta get black people. Like they can't, they don't want to have it a situation, where I'm saying the smart ones, they know that that's what they got to do. The other ones, it's like they're just constantly, they want us to argue that, oh, they can't do it, but then they're constantly in fear that we will. You know what I'm saying? Like they're constant. I'm like, why are you so scared if we're so motherfucking incapable? It just, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. And it just seems to be just this hard on, when it comes to us, and I'm saying what's so crazy about it is I know that there's white people that know about black people's greatness, and they're like, they fear that shit. They're over there having their moo-ha-ha meetings, trying to maintain white supremacy, right? But then you get these other white folks that, again, they say they believe in white supremacy, but when you look at their actions, they're too insecure to actually fucking believe in white supremacy. I'm like, why are you so insecure? If I'm seriously, like, if I was running around and I was a black supremacist and I was, I'm just running around, acting like freaking Xerxes in the movie 300 when he was coming down the steps, and all like the soldiers were like acting as the stairs as he was coming down the steps. I'm Leonidas, right? I like if I was that dude, like, you can't tell me shit. You can't tell me shit. I'm that dude. I'm him, right? Like, I'm that dude. Right? But when it comes to white dudes, like, we all seen it. Like, the insecurity just bubbles to the fucking surface. You'll see this even with white Karens. You know what I mean? Like, it's like they see black people having a good time, and they just, their face, you catch them on camera, their face, they get all screw face. They gotta say something. They gotta interfere. They gotta disrupt. How dare you Negroes have a good time? How dare you? How dare you? You know what I mean? Like, it's fucking nuts. It's nuts, and I'm sick of it. I'm motherfucking sick of this shit. And I don't know what other way to express it. I don't know what other way to express it. You know what I mean? The motherfucker, well dressed, nice car. Do you live here? Do you live here? Do you live here? You know what I mean? Like, and I'll never forget that time. I was in a building. It was right across. It's a building that's right across from Jefferson Hospital. It's a high-rise building, and it overlooks, the fucking city. And I got in the elevator. I was going to visit somebody, and a white lady got on the elevator. I remember she hit. So basically, the way that the hotel, the apartment building is set up is $3,500 at the time. This had to be probably like before 2010. It was $3,500 for a 1-bedroom apartment, and this is back in again before 2010. $3,500 for a 1-bedroom apartment. So I get on the elevator, talk to the security guard, get on the elevator, go, and the white lady, she gets on the elevator with me. You can tell she like kind of low key nervous or whatever. So going in the elevator, and she goes to hit her button, and it was like, I don't know, maybe like the 5th floor. I go hit the button, and the button was like the fucking like 22nd floor or something like that. And she, like, her neck snapped so fast because, again, the more expensive it is, the higher you go, the more expensive it is. And I'm not gonna lie, even though I didn't live there. I was just visiting a friend, and I like it was kind of shocking, her face, but it was a deep sense of satisfaction that she just had to walk off the elevator, not knowing any information. She just had to walk off the elevator, and it was a sense of satisfaction for me. But I remember her. I mean, her neck, like it was like it just snapped, like it like double take. And I'm just like, oh, I know what that is. You feeling some type of way? Cause I'm going to a higher floor than you. I'm like, oh, ain't this a bitch? And it's like it's just it's like there's white people that just that's how they measure their success. Their success is predicated off of how many black people are beneath them and how far black people are beneath them. And this is the world that we live in. And I wish black people would take it more seriously to literally go out here, make these white people feel some type of way. Be the best version that you can be. Stop doing the shit that would have us classified as niggas. You know what I'm saying? Just cut the bullshit out. Okay, because there's nothing more satisfying in this world than beating white people at their own game. That's what the Asians are doing. That's why they writing articles, ghost of white people past, and that other article that came out recently, talking about feeling some type of way about having to move and relocate because the area was becoming too Asian and their kids couldn't compete. Like that. That's the real way to do it. And then again, you know how they do. As soon as you start beating them, then they want to change the rules. But again, it's. I'm just saying what we should be doing. Put your name on everything. What I mean. I literally mean put your name on everything. I want there to be some archaeologist 1,000 years from now, what I mean, lifting up a rock or some shit like that, and that shit says Tyrone Jackson the Third, and then have them run around and see this is clearly a European named Tyrone Jackson the Third. Like nah, nigga, like no, wrong. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying that's just how I feel about this shit. We should be kicking ass all over the place, being the best that we can be, and because I'm telling you, like, as much as white people complain, oh, you niggas, why don't you do this? Why don't you do this? If black people actually were to go out here and I'm talking about African Americans now, and not fall into a lot of the bullshit that we fall into, and we're out here being the most hardcore disciplined motherfuckers that we could be, they couldn't handle it. You would literally watch their heads explode. You know what I mean? You should be sitting there saying, like, nah, this motherfucker ain't got more discipline than me. You know what I'm saying? You should be sitting there saying, nah, he can't get better grades than me. He can't do this better than me. He can't do that better than me. Because clearly, I mean, again, we are a marginalized group. And they still feel some type of way. Still got to put up the blockades and the barriers, right? Still got to, use the old boy network. They still got to go out of their way to try to create these barriers. And so I'm just saying, we should recognize that, and we should get off the bullshit, and we should be going out here being the best versions of ourselves that we can be. So anyway, that's all I got to say. That's my rant. That's my video. SWP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe.